Carson Daly, Chris Beachum, and I are here with you to say congratulations on pulling off the impossible. You not only won the Emmy last year for Best Reality Competition Show, let's put that in perspective. The show that was the first singing competition show out there, American Idol, never won, and rarely did anything ever get around Amazing Race. And you guys blew it away last year. How did you do it?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Chris. It's good to be with both of you. I appreciate your time. That's that's an amazing thing to hear, and we all were scratching our heads that day when they called our name, and beating the Amazing Race was incredible. There's all such great shows in that category, as you know. They're all well produced, and we were honored as a new singing competition in an already pretty crowded genre to be included in the nomination. That was good enough for us. The fact that we were still on the air on NBC after a couple of seasons was good enough. We knew we were doing something right that was connecting with America, and it had a real pulse to it. It felt like kind of the new show to watch. But yeah, to be the only singing competition to win an Emmy is really incredible, and to beat a great show like Amazing Race. I mean, that was just Cinderella's story. We're as stunned as you.
Chris, this show beat Amazing Race, Dancing with the Stars, Project Runway, So You Think You Can Dance, Top Chef, and The Voice. Now, you're not only covered, Chris, this show for us, you're an actual fan of The Voice. So what is it? Let's ask you, how did it win?
I just think it's got such a double layer of effectiveness. One, well, I want to hear what Carson has to say about that, but I think there are certain fans that love your coaches and really want to support your coaches, believe in what they do. And then you've got the artists as well, the people that we're getting to know over the course of the season. I think that double layer there is really what makes the show move, don't you?
I do. I think, the gamemanship part of it is a lot of fun. The blind auditions are just sort of money in the bank for us. I mean, it was an idea that when we watched it from the Holland format, we saw the big red Captain Kirk chairs turn around, and we thought, are we going to Americanize this and lose the chairs or put another color or make them smaller? And that's a fun thing. It's just a device. But behind that fun device, and maybe juxtaposed with that sort of gamey element, is a tremendous amount of heart and storytelling. And when America was enthralled with watching people be judged and be told you're no good, we thought, can we be uplifting and positive? And that's where Mark Burnett comes in, and he's cinematic. And so you have that. You have the shifting of power. You have Jamie Lona, who's a 19-year-old kid who makes sandwiches in Chicago, turns 2 chairs around from singing a song when these superstar people knew nothing about this kid, and all of a sudden the power shifts to him, and he's interviewing Christina Aguilera and well, what are you going to do for me, CeeLo? And that dynamic, that shifting in power, we always thought was this great American TV. I mean, who can't live vicariously through that? So, plus the coaches' chemistry, it's part sitcom, part reality show. But all of those things, I think, are why the show does so well.
You win or lose based on how smart or stupid you are at the Emmys in terms of episode submissions. And you submitted last year the Blind Audition Part 1. Blind Auditions Part 1. Mm-hmm. What will be your strategy this year, assuming you get nominated?
I don't know. I don't know what our strategy is in submission. I mean, all of our, I don't send in the submission personally. I'm a accredited producer on the show, as you know, but that's not something that will run across my desk. I trust somebody at the network will send in, an appropriate episode. But from our producerial standpoint of all of the, 2-hour blinds that we run on Mondays and the 1 hours on Tuesdays, a 3-hour a week collectively, and we really try and there's a formula that we're trying to hit there with great yeses, great no's. Unfortunately, we try and start with such a high level of talent that we need good no's to make the episode work. Episodes with me, with families who are moving on, and unfortunately, me consoling families that will not be. So that recipe exists, and hopefully every hour that we produce.
Chris, we know, you and I, that American Idol lost year after year because they foolishly submitted the finale. They know that they've made that mistake. Now, the producers have even told us that, and that if they get nominated again, which they did not get last year, that they won't make that mistake again. do you, looking back over the season, do you have a specific episode you think they? Chris, by the way, Carson is the master of Emmy submissions. You know, star after star comes to him for their advice. So,
Right.
I mean, people from Cynthia Nixon to Ty Burrell to Neil Patrick Harris owe their Emmys to this man right here. So, Chris, I'm putting you on the spot. What episode should Carson and the Voice submit this year?
You know, Carson said it earlier. There's so much drama and so much energy in those blind auditions, and it worked last year. I don't know how you would go around that.
Okay. What question do you have for him, Chris?
During those blind auditions, you're backstage with the families. Tell us just about what that feels like for you, and do you mostly have an inkling as to what way it's going to go for those particular artists?
So I'm involved in the very early stages of, you know, these great singers across the country being invited to the blind audition. So I wear a couple different hats. And when I'm in our executive callbacks and we're sort of vetting through this group of talent that we're going to invite to put in front of our coaches, and we're looking for obviously great singing, great stories, great ambassadors of music, people who will be great on the show and who are, you know, want to be on the show. So I get to know a lot of their profiles. So I walk into the day, which by the way is coming up in just a few weeks with Pharrell and Gwen and Adam. So the show's sort of always going on. Those are fun days, though, the shooting of the blind auditions. And I walk in there obviously with kind of a vast knowledge of who's who, and I see the rundown of the X amount that are going today and the amount tomorrow. And it's fitting that I'm with their families because I've already interviewed them with their families. I know why they're there. I know why this means everything. And so it's bittersweet days for me. It's people always say, "Oh, you look like you're really excited in there," and I say, I don't even know the cameras are on. I mean, I've never been a big fan of reality TV, to be perfectly honest with you. And when I shoot every frame of The Voice, I never feel like I'm shooting a TV show. I'm a music guy. I'm a television host. People know that about me. And this show is sort of the perfect show for me because it enables me to do what few skill sets I actually have. I'm a radio DJ is really what I am. And so those blind auditions are just, they're gut-wrenching, you know. I mean, in 1 minute I'm jumping up and down after 10 seconds in a chair turned, and then, you know, the next minute no chairs turn, and it takes about a good 6 or 7 minutes, Chris and Tom, for our artists to get back into that room the way we shoot it on the lot at Universal. And I swear to you, it's the longest 8 minutes of my life in a small room with cameras rolling with these families who've put it all on the line. But that's great television, and that's what it's about. We fake nothing. I mean, everything that's on there, it's as tumultuous as it appears to be.
So how did Josh win this year, Carson? I mean, this was an atypical winner. Did you see it coming?
I didn't. I don't spend too much time internalizing, who's going to win, who doesn't. In fact, as we get into the live show, I stay away from all analytics, and I step out when they start to really, we can look at numbers and all that, the sort of thing, and as you whittle it down, you get into your top 12, especially, you start to see who's got some real social media weight, and I like to play the game. I like to be surprised. I like from my hosting ability on air to be as unaffected as possible. So I step back. Josh was a surprise for me. I thought Christina Grimmie, just because she was so young and was so self-made on the internet, was such a powerful thing for her, and her incredible talent. I thought that was going to be a tough combination to beat down the stretch. Jake, I saw really making a leap when he started singing pop songs a little bit, when he sang that Bryan Adams song, and another one there at the end that Blake had him doing. Blake's, when Blake looks in the camera and asks Nashville to unite, that's a pretty strong ask from one of the best country artists in a long time, and that's got to be 8 to 10 million strong right there. So it was a tight race, 3 different contenders. It was great having 3 different coaches be wrapped in the finals, and I thought it was great ultimately that Blake or Adam didn't win. I thought that was good for the show, that a new coach like Usher, who I think might be our best coach, pound for pound. I mean, we call him the Mr. Miyagi of coaches because of all the weird things he has his artists doing, and yet there's a method to his madness. So I was excited that he won, and yeah, I think Josh was a little bit of a surprise. I think no one was more surprised maybe than him.
Chris?
That's a good point about Usher. My mother watches the show every season as well, and we were talking about it afterwards. I said, well, you know, Usher and then Pharrell Williams coming up for next season, they are used to working with artists. I mean, they're generally, I mean, they're always going to be, you know, professional artists, people that have already made music, but they're used to producing. They're used to getting the best out of somebody, and that, I think, helps them on a show like this, don't you think?
I do, Chris. You know, we noticed in the music business on the other side of it, the paradigm of the model really shifted probably 2010, 2011. I mean, record companies, the consolidation, the proliferation of video online, social media, bands didn't need record companies, fourth walls breaking down. So there was a real shift in how people were getting discovered. What we really noticed, which worked out in perfect sort of tandem timing with the release of this type of show, was that A-list artists were becoming this place. This mentoring was actually happening. Obviously, Usher with Justin Bieber is probably the quintessential example of this sort of new model working. But we see it, a lot of it, and that coincided with the release of the show. Usher was a great, we were so fortunate to get him. But yeah, I think it just represents the now, and that's really kind of why the show, I think, really works. It feels fresh. It feels like today.
We have a contest winner who was reaped the top score at Gold Derby in Predicting the Voice. Brian Cloris, if you're watching now, click the link, join the chat. I will step out as soon as you do, because part of his contest prize is his chance to talk to you, Carson. So we
I'm sorry, Brian, you couldn't have got a little bit better than that. Maybe a cup of coffee at Denny's, but I'd be thrilled to talk to you if we get you up here.
The other thing about Brian is, and all of the other people, is that it wasn't just the last week that they jumped in. I mean, I'm sure he picked the winner, but they had to accumulate their points over the entire lot, starting with the live shows over all of those weeks. So he was the best predictor over the whole course of the season.
Wow, that's awesome. We appreciate it to Brian and everybody else just watching, and yeah, I mean that's amazing. There are some twists and turns this year, so I'm glad that Brian scored some points.
Let me ask you about that too. The twists, the steals. That wasn't in the early seasons of The Voice. That's something relatively recent. What about that really energizes the show?
Chris, we noticed a little bit. I mean, it just, you know, by the way, the one great thing about The Voice that's been, especially we've had voting snafus. I mean, when we sit in meetings, the first thing we always say is we understand, you know, television and media today, and to have that 100% clear transparency with our audience. I mean, from season 1 we had an issue. Whenever anything happens, we like to just, you know, get in front of it, and that's just what we've done. And we noticed after season 1 a little bit of the drop off, not just from the ratings, but even internally, just watching the shows back, and the torso of our three-pronged format of the blind auditions and then the battle rounds and then the live shows, that once the chairs are not functioning and no one's pressing buttons, you lose a little bit lackluster. So we were able to come up with a way, by the way, coupled with the idea that we were getting such great talent on the show during the battle rounds, you know, it made no sense. There'd be this epic battle round, and Adam would pick somebody, and then out walks off our show somebody that theoretically could win it. So we thought, well, how can we have an opportunity for somebody to have a second chance, because who doesn't love a second chance? And how can we ignite a little bit more in this middle part of the format and get a little excitement? And we came up with the steal and shot it that way one day, really without knowing how it would work, and it immediately felt like this should have been a part of the original format. And I think internationally they've adopted that, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, and even this year we tweaked it a little bit. We went with a second battle round and added another steal instead of the knockout rounds.
Okay, I'm going to bow out here. Welcome, Brian. Congratulations on winning our contest.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm saying goodbye here. You take over, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk to Brian. I want to hear some questions from him. But Josh would not have won this season had there not been a steal, because he was stolen back weeks ago.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of that. And we've had talent on and off the show that almost have won it or come down the stretch, and you think back, wow, that was a steal. Or we had one girl this year who I think was on 3 different teams thanks to the double steal. So it's something that definitely is going to stay in the format.
Well, Brian, take it away. What would you like to know from Carson?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Great to meet you guys. I think you're talking about how you won the Emmy last year, and I think personally, aside from the basic things as far as the contestants and the coaches and things like that, I feel like The Voice is different because it's a very well produced show. It looks good, the lighting is good, the band is great. I feel like a lot of the singing competition shows, and this is the only one I watched, by the way. It's the only reality show I watch, and I've watched it from the beginning. But I feel like even like some of these shows, like during the live performances, like the sound isn't great. The audience drowns out the performance. And so what I'm wondering is that, was there a specific intent going into this show to make it look different and feel different on a production level that sort of, to me, elevates it and makes it easy to watch and a very clean show to watch?
Well, thanks, Brian. Again, congratulations for winning. Thank you for watching, and I love Daniel Day-Lewis, so I love the poster behind you. That's a good point, though, man. Honestly, this is a music show built for musicians. I mean, it's almost like the FUBU effect, sort of for us, by us. I mean, it was, they came, to me. I was one of the first people early on. I'm a music guy. I was in NBC's office pitching, shows, and they're like, oh my gosh, we have like a music show. Then we got Mark Burnett, who's one of the best producers in the world, if not the best. Adam Levine. So two words that we really threw around a lot were credibility and authenticity. Those were things that we wanted from the music standpoint. We thought if we could create a music show at the highest of levels and then just put it on TV, that's going to be a winner. Everything else in the marketplace just seemed to be like a TV show that had kind of music at the center of it, but it was really about rejection and just television, and it just didn't feel like a Grammys. And we wanted to have like a Grammys on, especially when we got to the live show. So yeah, getting Paul Merkovich, who, by the way, our music director, and that band, those guys are incredible. They're, I think, the best band on television. I say that selfishly. I'm sure Jimmy Fallon would tell you the roots, but Paul Merkovich and what they do, the hundreds and hundreds of songs that they have to learn, we put them up. We don't bury them in an orchestra pit. We're proud of them. They interact with in the live shows. You see all the same guys playing out there. The levels of everything to making sure that it sounds good at home. So there's a lot of emphasis to make sure that the show sounds good. It should. I mean, if we're claiming to be the best vocalist or music competition show on TV, it better sound it.
On the coaches, back before the show, when the show was in development, you didn't go with coaches that are at the back part of their career or that people don't know. I mean, you line up right out of the bat, 4 of the best top people in their fields, even currently. How hard a job was that for you and Mark and anybody else to convince them this was the place to be?
It was a lot harder than it is today. If I called some of my friends' representation and asked them about maybe being a coach on the show The Voice, now that in success everything changes, as they say. With that being said, it's a point of big differentiation for us as producers coming out of the box with a new singing show. We want it to be positive. We want it to be uplifting. We wanted to have the highest level of talent. We thought there was nothing really good, and we didn't find anything funny about somebody's pursuit of their dream if they couldn't sing. These were all things that were happening in other shows. So we didn't. If comment and mentoring was going to come from somebody, it should come from somebody who has incredible experience and is doing this profession at the highest of levels, and not somebody who is trying to, reboot their career, or, is doing this, is a judge on TV, and that's all they do for a living. Our 4 coaches, we went to Adam Levine. Adam's a feisty rock star. I mean, Adam, by the way, the commonality between all of us, really, me and Adam and Christina, and even CeeLo in the very beginning, Blake, none of us really knew. None of us loved reality TV. None of us, were obsessed with American Idol. We're all from that generation of MTV where our friends were in bands and in vans and touring and sort of earning it on the road. It wasn't about winning shows and things like that. So we all came from that sort of backdrop of television, and I think that helped the rhythm of the show too. So the A-level coaches is an important thing, and now it's cool because they have to go tour, and we knew that. We knew that they would be leaving. We knew that America also, on these other shows, when judges leave, it's like, oh, that's the end of the show. But I think we've done a good job of just being transparent and saying, no, well, Christina Aguilera is going to go make another record. Usher needs to go tour, and hopefully they'll come back.
Brian?
I wanted to ask you just your thoughts regarding The Voice, the winners and the finalists, and sort of their success after the show is over, because while they're on the show, they're very, very popular. They're doing very well in the iTunes charts. And it seems as though they're having a little trouble once they're off the show and having to make it in like today's music industry. Because I mean, I think back to like the early 2000s when it was American Idol and it was only American Idol, whereas now we have, you know, quite a few shows on, singing competition shows on. But also back then, you know, for people like, you know, Kelly Clarkson and Carrie Underwood to be like overnight successes, you know, that music climate was sort of, you know, you go out and you buy albums. People bought CDs. And today, you know, it's all about singles and people steal music a lot today. So I feel like it's a different music industry today than when these big superstars came out of, you know, something like American Idol. And the other thing, it's sort of a double-edged sword about the Voice, is that I feel like it really does judge vocal ability and talent over like star quality. However, in today's world, it seems as though they have trouble maintaining the popularity and the success that they had on the show throughout and making it as a career as an independent artist. So I was just wondering your thoughts on that.
You know, Brian, it's tough. It's one of those things where, I mean, in the music business, it's hard to break through. Never mind coming from Idol or The Voice or X Factor overseas or any of these shows. It's tough to just make it. It's tough to, you know, to penetrate the top 40 charts. I mean, I'm a radio DJ. I play this stuff every day. Two things. The market has changed a lot. So, you know, Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, it's been a while now. It's been 6, 8, 10 years since, you know, Philip Phillips, by the way, has had a great career. So it's not like it can't happen. We don't make this show to produce a celebrity, you know, or we want to help somebody make it. We want to help somebody quit their day job and make music for a living. And if they do that, and a lot of them are doing that, with the help of our coaches, even quietly, and I'm thinking about Blake because he's been so great, and even Adam signing Christina Grimmie this past season. If we can put them on the path to be successful in music, then we feel like we've done our jobs, and if we've made an entertaining television show. I mean, at the end of the day, this is NBC, and we're trying to make a show that's entertaining for millions of American families to sit around and watch 2 nights a week. If those goals are met, then we feel like we've done our job. Would it be nice for Josh Kaufman to, you know, win a Grammy next year? Yeah, that would be great. It comes up a lot in the press about The Voice, but I think, you know, I think it'll happen. By the way, I think it just takes time, and it might not happen from somebody who wins.
Brian, I'll give you the last question here.
Well, I guess we're talking about the new rounds and the steals and things like that you're adding to the show. It seems as though you are always trying to improve it, make it a little better, making it flow a little nicer. Are there any things this upcoming season that you think about changing a bit?
Let me ask you a question since you watched the show, both you, Brian, and Chris. What do you think of the instant save, the Twitter save? Be honest.
Well, I don't have Twitter myself, and I think it's very exciting for those 5 minutes. And also, by the way, I like this year that the graphic was on screen and you got to see who was ahead, so I really like that. But as a concept as a whole, it seems as though it's like, for instance, Christina. I knew that when she was in the bottom, I knew she was getting saved, not only because I thought she was the best of those in the bottom, but she had so many Twitter followers, and so I saw the graphic. She was winning by a landslide in that thing. So I feel like it's very conditional. It's, you know, whoever is on Twitter watching the show on the East Coast, presumably, but it makes it for very exciting. But I feel like sometimes it might be a bit of a popularity contest.
Got it. Fair. How about you, Chris, just out of curiosity?
The only negative to it, I was speaking to somebody the day after Sassandra went out, who I thought might have been the best just pure singer of the whole season, and they said to me, I hadn't really thought about it from this perspective, she said, well, Sassandra's fans aren't on Twitter. They weren't going to save her. They couldn't save her. So that made me wonder about that and how that could be maybe tweaked a little bit from your end.
I think that's a good point. I interviewed Sassandra for the Today Show right after she was eliminated, and we both sort of went right there to that. Well, this is a Twitter save, and you're one of the more seasoned veterans on the show, and perhaps your contingency of fans just, you know, weren't as technically savvy to save you so quickly within a 5-minute window on Twitter. So maybe there is some truth to that. we like it. I mean, it's fun. That last 5 minutes is, I mean, I've done live TV going back to like 97. It's the only thing I really love to do because it's like radio. It's just in the moment. But to walk out there that without a net and we open up that window and I only get it in my ear when the window's closed. I mean, it's really exciting. And as a fan of television, it's hard not to really just in that moment go, this feels like event television, which of course what we're trying to make. But I know there's been issues on the West Coast, especially. I've had to try to explain to people, if you just follow the show on Twitter at about 5:45 Pacific Standard Time, you'll be alerted who's on the bottom three, and you'll have a chance. So you can participate in the Twitter save nationally, but it's harder for some people to grasp that. I know it's had its controversy. I'm a fan of it. I mean, I like it, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But as I've always said, we reserve the right to tweak some of the things in the show, Brian, which might go back to your question. What are we going to do? And I think we're still kind of looking and post-morteming this last season, and we'll see if we make any tweaks for season 7, which is quickly coming. I mean, we start shooting in like 2 weeks.
I think that's what we appreciate the most about your show is that it does, from season to season, you can tell that you all get in rooms and talk about these things. What can we do to improve? How can we get better and better? And I think we all appreciate that.
I think you have to, Chris. I mean, it's such. I mean, by the way, I mean I say that selfishly. Well, I mean, it's a high priority for NBC. It's on, obviously twice in a year. It occupies a lot of hours of television. It behooves us to certainly do that, but I think we would anyway. We did even after season 1. We understand that in today's day and age of producing television and with these shows as competitive as they are, and I'm sure scripted does this as well, every viewer that you get watching traditional media in any sense is a precious one, and it's smart to sit back and look at the product that you're making and go, all right, like, is this up with the times? Are we doing the right thing? Are we staying? Is the integrity of our show intact? You have to be careful with that too, because it's easy when it's competitive out there to make a wrong decision, too quick to jump the shark, if you will. So it's a fine line between the bones, the guts, the DNA of this show, the format. People like it, so don't ruin it. But what can we add? And I think the Steal for us is kind of a perfect example of something that we added early on that helped us propel the level of success of the show from season 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. It was an integral decision that we made. It was highly important, and I think it worked.
Well, listen, congratulations on that Emmy win. You've been on TV since really out of college, I guess, and finally get that first Emmy. That's amazing. It's
been fun. Thank you, Chris, and thanks for all your hard work. And I know you've seen every lick of the show, and I appreciate that very much. We all do at The Voice. We don't take any of this for granted. We're still pinching ourselves, and if we should be so lucky to get a nomination, great. And if not, we're very happy to be doing what we're doing. But we appreciate the viewers and certainly you for all your great write-ups here.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, and congratulations. I'm sure you're aware of this, but just a couple of hours ago, the TV Critics Association nominates The Voice for Best Reality Program. So that ceremony will be coming up in July.
That's exciting. I did just get that email a couple hours ago and was thrilled to do it. I've been the last couple of years, and that's a tremendous honor. And you get into this season, it's pretty crazy. And for me, I mean, it's a reality show and it's a competition. It doesn't feel like work to me, even though it is. I have so much fun doing it, and I feel so lucky to be able to do it. But to get nominated for these awards as they come up, when our peers are seemingly doing such incredible work with scripted programming and the dramas and the comedies and stuff like that, it's really special, and we feel very lucky to be included with that great group of content creators.
Well, it's really the rare show that gets support from critics, support in the industry, and support from the public, and yours is doing that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think, Brian, what you said earlier about just the emphasis of the level of production all the way around. So I can only say on behalf of the over 500 of us that are working all the time. These are guys that are tweaking sound, all the crew, the spotlights, the music. I mean, every little bit of it. If everybody's not working at the highest of level, then the level and the quality of our production suffers, and it doesn't, because we have men and women that do the best job in the business, and that's why we get, if we're lucky enough to get nominated, it's because of the collective. It's not because of Adam Levine and his Sexiest Man Alive.
That's a good note to leave on. Thanks so much, Carson. Hope you have a great summer. Thanks, Brian, and congratulations on winning our contest.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Thanks.